and welcome to episode 204 of Jungian Harp. This episode is called Why Spiders Balloon on the Wind. I'm here today alone without Kathleen. She had something else she had to do last minute, but I love to meet with you anyway. I'm Deborah Henson-Conant. Kathleen, who is not here today, is a Jungian psychoanalyst. I'm a composer and a performer, and I have an online school where I teach improvisation and creative expression. And both Kathleen and I play the harp, and that's why we call this Jung at Harp. Every week we meet to look at a question that we don't usually prepare ahead of time, and we're looking at where our ideas take us, and we're looking through the art of conversation rather than coming as experts. You have a lot of experts on the internet that you can go to, but what Kathleen and I discovered about ourselves and each other and together is that we love conversation and we love what we learn in conversation together. So today I want to talk about something alone, but I have my harp here to talk about it with. And I want to talk about something that happened. So there's so much to put together, but I want to talk about something that happened in a coaching session the other day. I had been showing information about improvisation, and someone said that what's been changing for them in their lives through being in Hip Harp Academy, where we're learning about improvisation, is that she feels that there was this blank space where she didn't really know anything about improv, or she didn't know how to do it. And now it's starting to be filled with some kind of filament where there's something to go to. And when she said that, I saw those filaments, and I saw it as a spider web. And I was thinking about the blank spaces in my own life, the spaces where I don't feel like I can get from here to there because there's nothing in between. Like, I just don't know. I don't even know where to start. When I was a little kid, I used to visit my relatives all the time. My parents were split up, and I had this summer route that I went on where I'd visit each parent, and then each grandparent, and then my uncles and aunts, and I would stay with them. And I didn't know where things were. I didn't know where the library was. I didn't really know how to get places. And for some reason, I didn't know how to ask. There was a blank space between me wanting to go to the library and me knowing how to ask how I could get to the library, or could someone take me to the library? And so that was, I think, where I first became aware of that blank space. But as I was thinking about these blank spaces, I was thinking, well, who in the world knows more about these blank spaces? Who knows about these blank spaces? And I thought, well, spiders know about these blank spaces because that's what they deal with all the time. There's a blank space, and then somehow they build a web there, and I didn't know how. And so I went and I researched this, and I discovered a couple of things. And I want to talk about those couple of things that I discovered, but I want to talk about them in the context of two other things. And one of the reasons I like to do this is that I like to often put 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe things together, because as I put them together, something new emerges. And so what I wanted to put together was this idea of improvisation, because I'm building this book called Modal Improv Magic. And it's looking at the modes on the harp, which I can talk about in a minute if you want me to, but what's important about that is that the modes open up these 7 strings in a way that I just wasn't aware of before. But more importantly, it's brought me into a new territory that I've never improvised in. I've never really improvised modally. And because I'm having to write tunes to go with this book and write improv patterns, I've been discovering new things, like new progressions, none of this is particularly new to me, but what's new is to land here instead of landing there. So where we land, and I hope you can hear me okay. I can't tell what's happening on the other end. But this, so I've started thinking about this, and I've been thinking, because what I'm creating is something that will help people improvise. And it lets people use their harps in a new way without having to use any levers or pedals, but it also opens up improv patterns. And those patterns, I sometimes call them snippets, they set up a pattern. And this is going to make sense with the spider in a minute, because this pattern, so for, let's say there's just a pattern like this. And the pattern is this chord, and this chord, and then this chord, this chord, this. And you can do many things with that. All those things are happening out of dun 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 dun. And they're all happening because my hand knows a certain shape. My hand is used to doing a shape like this. And my ears are used to knowing that it's okay if the one particular chord doesn't sound good, because I'm going to go on to another one, and the structure itself is going to move me forward. So that's what's happening with my left hand. It's creating this I don't know the word for it, but because there's a momentum in it. It's got a momentum in it. Once you hear this, even if you hear it in its simplest form, that's got a momentum. You can almost feel, the wind to it. It's staying here for a moment. Then it's moving. And if I keep that same pattern, it really starts to have a momentum. So that's like the wind, in that it's got this momentum. What about my right hand? And what I try to teach, what I find that many sorry, my brain's going in two places right now. Many people, myself included, when they're starting, when I started, I'll just speak to myself. I thought, wow, I can't really play what I hear in my head. I can play like kind of the structures or the basic line, but I can't play the notes that I hear in my head. If I got good enough to play what I actually hear in my head, oh my God, my improvs would be amazing. And then one day I was recording, and I played exactly what I heard in my head. And I was like, wow, I can't wait to listen to this, because this was it. And I went and I listened to it, and it really wasn't that interesting. It was whatever. It was kind of predictable. And that's when I began to understand that, and this goes back to the spider and the ballooning, that we set up a pattern, but then the beauty is that we balloon on it. We don't know exactly where we're going to go. And when I'm teaching improv, one of the things I try to teach, I love harmonic patterns, or it doesn't have to be a harmonic pattern. It could just be something, let's see, something, what might I like? Again, having trouble seeing with just might be this. And by the way, this mode is kind of dark. This is more like it's sort of like a gentle wind, although it's kind of a dark, gentle wind, I gotta say. If I put it into a different mode, if I put it in the Lydian mode, that same pattern. I don't really have a progression. I kind of do. I have a rocking way. It's almost like a very gentle breeze. But what's happening with my right hand in both of those cases is that my right hand is responding more to the idea of gesture. gesture, not just human gesture, but also natural gesture. The gesture of wind, for example, like right now, what I just found myself doing, and I hope you can see my hands, but it's not necessarily important. I took a shape, which is the shape of a sixth, and I built that over. No, sorry. Let's get back to Lydia. It's hard for me to see the strings when I have the window open and there's snow outside, but I don't want to close the window because it's just so beautiful out there. I could even play. I just played the shape of a tree out there. So I can play many things without thinking about what notes I'm playing, because I'm playing the gestures or the shapes with this wind happening. So, and what I often say to people in improvising is, let's do this improv thing. I'm going to give you an improv pattern. I'm going to play it for you. And I want you to start getting familiar with what your fingers like to do. What do your hands like to do? Like, I noticed that I prefer playing with just my first three fingers. Not always, but it would be fun to explore using my fourth. But in terms of just going fast or fluid, I like using just my three fingers. And that itself creates shapes. That means that it is going to make some shapes that I wouldn't necessarily hear in my head. So how does this end up being about spiders and ballooning and those blank spaces of, where you don't know how to get from here to there, and it just feels like there's nothing there. And I don't know if you experience that, but I do. I experience that. And so when I went to look about spiders, how do spiders do this? How do they build webs? And I discovered two things. When a spider spiders crawl around, and now I'm not an expert. I gotta admit, I did this on AI. That's right, AI. So take it with a grain of salt and let me know if you know something different. So the spider crawls around and she reads with her legs. In fact, I think there's some sort of slits and hairs. She reads the environment. And then she stands somewhere, as I understand it, and she lets forth a long string of silk, and she trusts to the wind, and spiders can feel infinitesimal winds, and that silk flies and floats until it catches somewhere, and then she tests it, she walks it, it's a guideline, and that's how it starts. That's how the web starts. But then I asked, but what if it doesn't catch on anything? What if there's nothing for it to catch on, and it's just the wrong place, the wrong space? And then the answer I got was, well, then she steps, she leans into the wind, her chest leaning into the wind, and then out behind her she lets a spin, a thread of silk, and that silk is picked up by the wind, and the silk is like a balloon, and she is like the string of the balloon flying, and she ends up somewhere she's never been before, and there she tries again to spin her web. And this is how a spider bridges an empty space, a blank idea, a thing she doesn't know, with her silk, and then the wind. And this actually came about because I said to AI, okay, so the spider can do what she does, but what is the power greater than the spider? What is the power greater than the spider that can take her from something she can't manage it, she can't figure it out, it's not a thing she can do anymore? What is that power greater than herself? And the answer that I got was the wind. And so then when I was building these improv patterns, I was thinking, wow, these improv patterns are they're like that thing that you don't know that you bring into the mix. You set it up, it's like wind, and you set it up in a way that works for you technically. So for example, it might be like this. And you might not get it right in the beginning, and it might take a while, but you have patience, you allow yourself to float on that, you allow that to happen while taking the thing that is you, the way that your hand moves most easily, and combining it together. So what I've found often is that people are undermining both sides of that in improv. They're undermining themselves, they're undermining what they physically can do by thinking they should do something different or do something more. And I'm not talking about other people only, I'm talking about myself as well. Like, this seems to be a human thing. Oh, there we go. It seems to be a human thing that we will try to control. Like people will want to control. But I want to play this. I don't like that note. I don't like the sound of that note. And I'm constantly saying, that's not the point. The point is not the sound of any particular note. Like, I might not like this, I might not like that, but it doesn't matter. Because it's not a place that I have to be like, that's not good, fix that. It's not about fixing it. It's about moving on. And it's about allowing some part of the music to be that wind. So this is what I was, this was kind of my revelation of the morning. And then something that I love to do is I love to go back. Sorry for people. I'm sorry. I love to play with AI. I love to throw in ideas and see what comes out. What if you put this with this? What happens? So I went back and I said, okay, what would Carl Jung, since Kathleen isn't here today, what would Carl Jung have to say about this ballooning thing where the spider is at an impasse? It has something of its own. It has that silk, and it has this ability to feel wind at very, very infinitesimal, whatever they're called, fastnesses. And then lets itself go. What would it say? What would Carl Jung say about that? Now, this is what AI says that Carl Jung would say. So, may or may not be so. Says, okay, the art of letting things happen, action through non-action. This is quoting Jung, supposedly, again. So in this context, you allow yourself to be moved by what emerges. You allow yourself to be moved by what emerges. And then he quoted saying, or he or she, it quoted saying, the art, quoted Jung. I guess I'm nervous. I'm starting to stutter. So let's just relax for a minute. Okay, so supposedly Jung said, the art of letting things happen, action through non-action, letting go of oneself, became for me the key to opening the door to the way. The art of letting things happen, action through non-action, letting go of oneself, became for me the key to opening the door to the way. So the spider has a thing that is the spider, the silk, and then opening up to something else. Some people will call it a power greater than yourself, an action through non-action. It's through not trying to control. And then in improvisation, I think that when we set up an improv pattern, we are setting up a kind of wind. Now, spiders can feel wind at very infinitesimal, whatever it's called, velocities. And when we first learn to improvise, we often need a really kind of clear velocity, like maybe like this. The rhythm is very clear. So I'm just moving my right hand to that, but I'm not thinking about my right hand. I'm thinking about my left hand. I'm thinking about the wind. And I can feel it getting, I mean, I can allow it to get to be more full, and maybe a little bit faster. And has nothing to do with this. This is just a pattern. It's like saying wind, like wind. But then there are the qualities and the characteristics of wind. And this is where it starts coming back to the strings of passion, the principles of improvisation, or the principles of self-expression, impulse, structure, character. If you go look at that, this is a structure. It's just a structure. But then it can start to have character. And at first, when you're learning to build that character, okay, I get that we've switched away from spiders, but now we're kind of talking about the web. I don't know, building the web or being on the web of the spider. Once you have that structure, that then begins to still catch the wind. And again, you guys, my metaphors are all mixing because I'm just discovering this now. This is one of those places where I'd be like, oh, okay, here's the spider, here's improvisation, and here's Carl Jung. And like, what am I going to find out about those by playing together with them? And this is one of the reasons why I love to do this in conversation, because you guys may be having ideas, and that idea may be, I don't know what she's talking about, or it may be, oh, that kind of reminds me of this, and that. And that's another reason I like to kind of jump into AI, because it gives me, something else to think about. So that goes back to what it said, the active imagination model, active imagination, when you allow yourself to be moved by what emerges. Now, just think about that vis-a-vis the spider. The spider literally allows herself to be moved by what emerges physically from her. And she allows herself to be moved also by a power greater than her, something that has, you could say it has rhythm because it has movement. She can feel the velocity of it. And Victoria is saying, Victoria's saying, I like the way you explore ideas on the harp and with AI. Do you think the feedback, the sound, the response, the dialogue helps with discovery? Well, I know that when I'm talking to Kathleen, and you might notice this as you see us, like there'll be a lot of times when she's talking, and I've noticed that my head starts going like this, and it may look like I'm bored, but when my head goes like this and I'm looking up there, something she's said has triggered some visual thing in me, and I'm starting to have a new idea or a new understanding of something. So I think that sharing, whether I'm sharing with AI or whether I'm getting feedback from the sound. Oh, you're saying the sound and the response and the dialogue with the harp. As I'm thinking, I'm wondering, in thinking about your question, I'm thinking, well, would I feel that way about another instrument? Might feel that way about the piano, but it would be hard with like a wind instrument. But maybe not. Maybe if I had a flute, I don't know, and I could play it, it would help me in different ways. But I don't know. I mean, certainly, well, for me, if I think about music, or if I think about the musicality of anything I'm doing, I can be centered in it. I'm doing that right now. I'm thinking about the melody of what I'm saying. And even though I'm speaking, it's more like singing than the way I usually talk, which is often stumbling over myself. And when I have the music, that helps because speech is so connected to singing. And when I hear the harmony, it allows me to pause. It allows me to think about the melody of what I'm saying. So maybe, I don't know if it's the feedback, the sound, the response, the dialogue, or maybe it's just that I'm experiencing that it's music and not everyday life, but it's music. That's a good question. And it's, I was answering some questions for an interview with a magazine, and they said, what are the 5 things that you wish you'd known, you wish somebody had told you? And I found that the 5th one that I mentioned, you don't have to do it alone. And I think that means, that also means, like, the spider doesn't have to do it alone. She does it with the wind. You can do it with an instrument. So that you're not coming up with all the ideas. And even this, that means I'm not doing it alone. If I can do that. I could play. I could, birds do it all the time. And I might sneeze in a minute. Keep that thought. Yes, I know. I could have hit the sneeze button, but I didn't. So, and I know some of you are saying, are you going to wash your hands before you touch your harp? I'm not. I'm sorry. So anyway, I could. But to me, Having that is a not alone. Thank you, Victoria. And you're right. I do like to combine things to find out how ideas are going to be changed by combining them, by combining the ideas. I want to go back to what AI said. So it gave me like 6 different things. So AI said, what Jung might say. The spider knows something essential about the creative life, that one must prepare the silk through one's own substance and then surrender to the wind. And then I said the ego provides preparation, the self provides the destination. If Kathleen was here, she might be able to explain that. But this is a decision I made. But once I've made that decision, I might want to move. And I also might change it because my body needs to change it. Like, this is another thing that I often say to people when I'm talking about improv. If you're having trouble making, holding that left-hand pattern, don't hold the left-hand pattern. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. You can loop it, you can put it in a looper, you can play with someone else, or you can allow it to change. You can hear the fundamental movement of it and not have to play it exactly as you started out playing it. So that is another situation where you're creating something, but then you surrender it to. So the spider creates that silk in order to surrender to the unknown. As I say unknown, it's unknown, but it's also known that this works for spiders. So that's interesting. So, for example, right, it is known that a chord progression will create a wind on which you can ride, or a wave, on which you can ride, but you don't know where you're going to go. So it is known that if you are hanging onto a big balloon and you're in the wind, you're going to go somewhere, but you don't know where you're going to go. And that's the beauty of it. So let's look else what AI said about this. The paradox of the agency in this surrender. The spider doesn't passively wait. It faces into the wind. It makes a conscious choice, releases the silk, which is a prepared skill, but then comes the crucial moment. It must let go of knowing where it will land. And that's how improvisation works. You set it up, you have the skills that you have, whatever they are. You set up a pattern. You don't have to set up a pattern. There can be a different structure. There could be a story structure. There could be, there's many different structures. And there's ways of setting up your harp so that it's completely, you couldn't even find a pattern, a harmonic pattern in the way that you normally do. But anyway, you surrender to something and you've set up something. Even if I've set up the idea, for example, I'll just do, this is called angel mode. Well, we call it angel mode. It's the setup of the harp in such a way that it's just like, it's that harpy sound. So a lot of the improv skills that I've developed, they're just not relevant in this realm. But anyone could improvise, and you'd improvise differently. I'm trying to imagine like how I might approach the harp if I didn't play. so I'm still using what I know of, which is rhythm. I'm still using up, I'm using down, but I'm not using any of the harp skills that I developed as a harpist. And yet I'm still able to improvise. So I wanted to say, you don't have to have specific structures in order to improvise, but it is helpful to have structures that are accessible to you. In other words, that you can do, versus trying to do something that's so hard you can't do it. Victoria says, the most interesting thing about you is that you're always interacting with the world through music, conversations, etc., and giving birth to ideas and connections as a result of those interactions. Interesting. I'm going to put that in my dating profile. The most interesting thing about me is interesting. Well, I am always trying to understand, like what's going on. And I do find that animals and insects can be very helpful in understanding, in kind of getting a better idea what's going on. And I do find that if you combine ideas, you can find things come out of them. Thank you, Victoria. I love that. I'm going to go back to the information that I got. So the spider doesn't passively wait. It's not passively waiting. It faces into the wind. It releases the silk, something it's prepared, and then it lets go of knowing where it will land. Then it talks, oh, interesting. I don't know about this. It's talking about the wind as the spirit, and the spider faces into it rather than resisting them. That's interesting. Kathleen, I'm sure, could say more about that. Then it says creative destruction and renewal. I wasn't asking about this either, but it was interesting. Jung wrote extensively about how psychic renewal requires sacrifice of the old position. You can't individuate while clinging to your current structure. And it says the spider literally casts itself into the unknown. For the last year, I've been thinking a lot about the Lepidoptera and that transformation from caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly. And I think more about that surrender, because that is like a complete surrender. When it becomes a chrysalis, it like lets go of everything inside and then completely transforms and releases, and parts of it unfold that were there but hadn't been unfolded before, which is another really beautiful analogy. I mean, I love all these analogies, but let's go back to active imagination as a model. So the ballooning is essentially an active imagination, it says. May be true, may not be true. That's what it says. When you allow yourself to be moved by what emerges. And then he quotes Jung, the art of letting things happen, action through non-action, letting go of oneself, became for me the key to opening the door to the way. So this is what I see improvisation as: setting up something, whatever that is that you're setting up. Again, it could be a story, it could be an idea, it could be something that I was reading. I could literally read what I'm reading, like the art of letting things happen, action through non-action, letting go of oneself became to me the key to opening the door to the way. So in this case, I'm allowing what's written on the page to be the structure, along with a little bit of a pattern that I have, and then what the word said to me. I'm going to go on though. The silk as individual substance. So the spider uses its own substance. Silk it is created from within itself. Jung would note that we can't balloon on someone else's silk. The creative work must come from your own inner material. Let me just say that again. Jung would note that we can't balloon on someone else's silk. We can be inspired by someone else, but as soon as we are inspired, just by the pure words there. Inspire means that there's wind within us at that point. Spirit and spiritus, it's all comes, and wind, it's all the same. As I understand it, it comes from the same thing. And inspire is to have that within us so that we're inspired. It comes inside us. And then the creative work comes from your own inner material. Whatever happens to you, even if you're inspired by something that happens outside, it has come inside. But the thing that I made the largest here, made it big, was the spider doesn't know where it's going when it's ballooning. The spider doesn't know where it's going. And that is precisely the point. So it says, when spiders balloon to new and unknown place to build a web, they're surrendering to a power greater than themselves, the wind. When we create an improv pattern, and I don't know why it's saying we, because it's AI. It can't create an improv pattern, but I'm not going to tell it that because it'll feel bad. Okay, when we create an improv pattern and improvise over it, we can either try to control what we hear or surrender to the spirit, the rhythm, the music, the pattern. How do we do that, and why is it important? Okay, aside from the fact that AI can't do that, it can't surrender, but that's another point. We can. And we don't know what the results would be. And this is why I love to teach improvisation. Because there's often a point, or maybe always a point, where someone says, oh, I put these things together, and is that music? Because it suddenly seems easy. It suddenly seems like something that they didn't have to craft, but something that just came out. And that is one of the, oh, it's 10 o'clock. It's time to leave. Well, that's why I created this. That's why I teach improvisation. That's why I do improvisation. And that's why I made this specific. It's called modal improv magic. Why? Well, it's interesting, but also because, and I'll have to talk about this another time, the harp, we play in the same two keys all the time. We play in major key and minor key. And yet there are there's many other modes that we could be playing in. And by exploring those, I'm exploring new places and helping other people, just giving people, kind of being the Sherpa, saying, try it this way, use this pattern to see where you get to. So by taking something I didn't know anything about, starting to learn about it, and then using that principle of how do you set up music that becomes the wind, and then show people how to, or just guide them to how to then balloon on that wind. That is probably the best description of what I think I'm teaching all the time, but definitely in this particular class. So I am off to a meeting of the Legacy Project team, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Tovala. Thank you for everyone who comments while you're here, doesn't comment while you're here, sends me a note afterwards, or sends Kathleen and me a note afterwards. And thank you to Kathleen, even in absentia, because her spirit is here even when she's not. But I look forward to having her back. She said she'll be able to be with me all of March. So we'll look forward to seeing you every Friday at 9:15-ish. And thank you so much for being part of this adventure. And now go forth and harp on the good things in life. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.